So as a dungeon master, what happens when you can't counter the players? And what I mean by that in terms of a framework, one of the things that we explored was this idea as a player, as you level up, there are three things that we're trying to pay attention to, that we're focusing on. Now, the primary thing, of course, is your stats, your abilities, magic spells based on the character class. You're going to gain in power. You're going to get more hit points. You're going to get more attacks. You're going to get more dice. You're going to get more stuff. But also as you level up, there should be an influx of gold and magic items or treasure equivalent that you are utilizing to keep pace with your gear. A perfect example, playing a fighter at level 1 and 2 and level 3, +1 sword, +1 longsword, +1 primary weapon. It's got a little bit of bite. But if you're level 4, 5, 6, and you're still rocking that +1 sword, you're a little bit behind on the dice that you need to be able to generate. So I'd like a +2 sword, or perhaps a +1 plus sonic, frost, flame, acid, keeping pace. And then, of course, as you level up, the narrative, the D&D social capital of networking within the universe, establishing contact with some of the temples, with the Thieves Guild, with the Fighters Guild, with various merchants that not only can you perhaps go and get a quest, but also on a primary quest, use those for potential information sources. So there's this idea of leveling up. Now, as the players level up, the DM, the Dungeon Master, is leveling up. You're looking at the monster manual, your monster shopping. If you're running a pre-made adventure, now you're pulling out higher levels. If we're playing current D&D, you're balancing out that CR, that challenge rating. You should be increasing the difficulty. But sometimes what happens is this duality of, personally as a dungeon master, I don't want to limit my players to anything. You can find any magic items, any wondrous items. What you can't find, if it's a big enough city and it supports the narrative, and maybe you do some quests for the Wizards Guild and some mages, yeah, if you can't find it, you could buy it or have it made. But what this means in the total freedom is, with some very focused players, they might be able to beat everything that I can throw at them. A perfect example, an interesting combo would be if I'm playing a mage, I've got a variety of spells. Once you hit level 5 and 6, that's the unlock. Not only in terms of being able to deal more damage with lightning bolt and fireball and things like that, but now you're getting to some of the illusion spells, some of the charm spells, different aspects where you can really tactically start to affect the battle, not only in dealing damage, but in effective area control. And even if you're playing a wizard, if you're not necessarily playing a sorcerer that has more casts per day, a wizard still has enough casts that you can put out some good effects. If you combine this with the ability to turn invisible, if you combine this with some gear, perfect gear, and I guess I'm going to make a note, top 5, or should we do top 10 most annoying magical items? On that list, I won't say it's number 1, but on that list, definitely in the top 10, would be the slippers of spider climbing, or spider slippers. It goes by a couple of different names based on the edition of D&D. But essentially, you put these on and you've got sticky feet. You've got the ability to, hands-free, climb up walls, climb up certain surfaces. And I'm not even talking about then throwing on a haste or other things to increase the poor haste, immediate retreat, first level spells where you can just get that burst of speed. The ability to climb, be invisible. What that does is it takes it from 2D monster encounters to 3D, where if you're up on the ceiling and it's a tall enough ceiling, how am I going to reach you up there? No pole arms, no regular weapons. Okay, missile weapons, absolutely, but maybe you're invisible. Of course, then I'm not shooting other targets. So what we begin to see with certain magic items, with some creative use, and I want to encourage that, how do we deal with that? How do we utilize that? So I won't say pulling something out of the monster manual to completely counter it. I could do that, right? As a DM, I could do that, but that doesn't make for an interesting game. So if you're exploring the caves of peril and you're climbing up on some of those larger caves and caverns, if I throw some sort of monster that has the ability to climb after you, does it make sense that that monster would be there in the first place? And yeah, I could always write the narrative. It escaped from some caravan on the way north to the Wizard Zoo and it took refuge in the cave. Yeah, I could do that, but it has to be something that could potentially counter within that moment. That's my opinion on it. Now, will I go out and directly do that? Usually not. You know what? You've got the creativity. You're going to do that. But what this means is I have to look at other areas. And what we tend to focus on as a DM, and we want to be careful of this, if we have this example of our Wizzy who can go invisible, can haste up, has the spider climb slippers, so we're not burning a fly or levitate spell slot, and it's persistent, it's always on. Yes, for certain encounters, they're going to be kind of unstoppable. But can I catch them outside of the encounters? And I say that because as the players level up, certain character classes are going to be very challenging to beat, to confront, to put up enough of a threat. But that's in certain areas. They're going to be weak in other areas. And as a good DM, I'm looking to throw not just combat dice-based challenges. I'm looking to throw encounters all across. Encounters are not just roll for initiative. They're across many different areas. So from that perspective, I try to counter them where they're weak and where they're strong, put up the best fight that I can. But this is D&D. You can always roll a 1. So from that perspective, I don't limit anything as a DM. You've got to find it. You've got to buy it. You've got to make it. It's not just going to appear there. There is going to be a cost of opportunity. But from that perspective, I want you to develop out your characters as best as you can. And behind the DM screen, I am going to throw different monsters at you, monster shopping and exploring different things. We explored that in a previous vlog that I pushed up to the archive here called Monster Shopping. But I'm not going to pick something out just to counter your magic item because I find it extremely annoying. That goes a little bit against the meta. So I'm going to turn it over to my fellow players and my fellow DMs. Are there certain magic items that make a player, maybe not a specific class, but make a player essentially immune to your encounters? And how do you deal with that? Secondary, I'm building my list. I've got about 5. We're going to look at the top 10 most annoying magic items in Dungeons & Dragons. So get that checklist. Get your vote ready for that.